Did you know that 82% of business owners say that most of their new business comes through referrals? Well, it makes sense. Think about the power of a recommendation from a friend or a colleague when it comes to restaurants and movies. Why wouldn't the same be true for business? And if you are a business owner, you know that a client who comes to you from a trusted source is far more likely to do business with you, and they'll probably spend more money, because that's the power of a referral. I'm Jenny with BNI, the world's leading referral networking organization. And for more than 35 years, all over the world, we've been helping business owners like you connect with the people who are looking for their products and services. So if you've struggled in this economy with how to find new business, BNI can help by introducing you to a group of reliable and committed referral partners who can open doors for you in a way that direct mail postcards and cold calling just can't. So how does it work? Our members meet weekly, they showcase their businesses, and they pass referrals. It's as simple as that, and it's very effective. In fact, last year, our 270,000 member businesses generated over $16 billion in new business. $16 billion. So if you'd like to experience the way our members work together and support one another toward growth, the next step is easy. Click on the link and you can register to visit a chapter in a community near you online live. And then you can watch our proven system in action. We hope you'll see that BNI is your best chance for your business to grow in this challenging economy, and we hope to see you visiting a BNI chapter soon. Did you know that 82% of business owners say that most of their new business comes through referrals? Well, it makes sense. Think about the power of a recommendation from a friend or a colleague when it comes to restaurants and movies. Why wouldn't the same be true for business? And if you are a business owner, you know that a client who comes to you from a trusted source is far more likely to do business with you, and they'll probably spend more money, because that's the power of a referral. I'm Jenny with BNI, the world's leading referral networking organization. And for more than 35 years, all over the world, we've been helping business owners like you connect with the people who are looking for their products and services. So if you've struggled in this economy with how to find new business, BNI can help by introducing you to a group of reliable and committed referral partners who can open doors for you in a way that direct mail postcards and cold calling just can't. So how does it work? Our members meet weekly, they showcase their businesses, and they pass referrals. It's as simple as that, and it's very effective. In fact, last year, our 270,000 member businesses generated over $16 billion in new business. $16 billion. So if you'd like to experience the way our members work together and support one another toward growth, the next step is easy. Click on the link and you can register to visit a chapter in a community near you online live. And then you can watch our proven system in action. We hope you'll see that BNI is your best chance for your business to grow in this challenging economy, and we hope to see you visiting a BNI chapter soon.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, BNI. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this amazing afternoon. Welcome to the third Restart the World Elevating Home in One webinar series powered by BNI Taguig and hosted by BNI All-Stars. I am Crisela Velasquez of BNI All-Stars. I am a mom of Molly, a 4-year-old IVF baby. Professionally, I am an independent distributor of doTERRA essential oils. I help families discover the correct, effective, and safe use of essential oils one drop at a time. Now, I'd like to call on my equally wonderful co-host for tonight, Carlo Martin. Hello there, Carlo.
Hello, Cree. Hello, and hello, everyone. Hello, super parents. And I'm Carlo Martin, as mentioned by Cree. So I'm from BNI All-Stars, and I'm a father of 2 and a husband to 1. So 2 daughters, Chloe and Carly, and I'm a proud girl dad here. So I'm also the principal trainer of Ikigai. So I help individuals and teams develop their intrinsic motivation by understanding and discovering their true calling, or in Japan, they call it Ikigai. So especially right now that it is an unprecedented time for everyone, and every day we seem to be navigating uncharted territory, and I call it the ultimate pattern interrupt for everyone. So gluing ourselves to social media for updates and trying our best to thrive in the face of these new challenges.
Speaking of challenges, it has been a particularly challenging time managing to work and study from home setup for parents. For most of us, going to the office or in the school has been replaced by just moving from the bedroom to our desk at home. What do you think, Carlo?
Yes, I totally agree. Like right now, what we're doing. So I totally agree that, parents right now, we used to just help kids with homeworks. Now the parents themselves, they are the actual tutors and teachers, diba, for our children. So I still remember you, diba, Cree, when you started homeschooling Molly, diba, when we were doing our meeting. So it was really a high energy experience for you. All right, so just a reminder for everyone, of course, to our listeners, we acknowledge that each parent has their own parenting style. So our speakers will be generously sharing their own experiences. And so we are not in any way implying that what will be shared here today must be taken as an exact science. So please take whatever you think will work in your context and apply it in your parenting journey. As Kana would always mention in our trainings, diba? Always we copy with pride. All right, so before we proceed, can we ask our amazing participants in the chat box, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how excited are you to learn about smart parenting this afternoon? 10, 1,000, 10,000, 10. Right, 12. Noel, 1,000, right? All right.
Yeah, I see a lot of 100,000s and more. Keep the energy up, everybody. And we have a very interesting lineup of speakers today who will share with us their parenting insights, experiences, and tips. First off, we have with us Oly Ruiz of BNI All-Stars, the founder of Metro Photo. In 2007, Metro Photo was founded by Oly. In 14 years, Metro Photo has established itself as one of the most prominent, recognizable photography brands in the country, doing events, portraiture, advertising photography at the highest quality. Oly is a professional painter for Isabel Art Gallery and is a WSET3 wine expert. Wow. A father of 3, Lance is 16, Lana 14, and Lorian is 6. Oly noticed that none of his kids has seemed to acquire his penchant for arts yet. But he believes that it is about finding what his kids love and letting them pursue it. Hello there, Oly. Can you give us your beach body wave?
Hello, Cree and Carlo. Thanks for having me here.
Right, so very nice. Our second speaker is Jaycob Yedra from BNI Champions. Jaycob is a full-time stockbroker at AP Securities Inc. and has been in the stock brokerage industry for over 13 years. He's passionate about health and fitness, trading, various financial markets, gaming, and art, which he shares with his 2 boys. Jaycob is a father of 2, E.G., the eldest is turning 17 years old next month, and Lucas, who is turning 8. He will be sharing the division of roles among parents. Hello there, Jaycob.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to share my story.
All right, and shout out to all the members of Champions. All right.
Looking great there, Jaycob. Our third guest speaker is Kana Evangelista from BNI Elite. Kana is Japanese with a Filipino heart, with 10 years of experience working in a multinational company as a brand marketeer and lived and worked in 5 different countries. Now a health advocate, helping people be healthy and happy with Izumio hydrogen-infused water. She's a mother of 2 daughters, Nina, 13 years old, and Hannah, 10 years old, and applied different parenting styles from Japan and France, where she started her parenting. She will be sharing about the fulfillment of raising independent children. I can't wait to hear more from this amazing woman. Our third speaker, Kana. Konnichiwa to you and all our participants from BNI Elite Chapter.
Konnichiwa. I'm excited to share a different side of me with my dangling earring.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kana. So our fourth speaker for today's BNI All-Stars Ambassador, Doc Melanie Alejandro. Talagang tinangkin natin, no? Si Doc Melanie is a developmental and clinical psychologist who earned her master's and doctor of philosophy degrees in the University of the Philippines. She's also a licensed professional teacher who seeks to make a difference in the lives of Filipino families through education of young children and by conducting webinars and working closely with parents. She is the founder and directress of Integrated Center for the Young, a progressive and inclusive school that has offered preschool, grade school, and special education programs for the past 23 years. With more than 3 decades of teaching, wow, she started teaching at 10. She's best known simply as Teacher Melanie. She herself is a mother of 4. Hello there, Doc Melanie.
Good afternoon, everyone. Special shout out to Iconic and All Stars.
All right.
Well, Carlo, we have a powerhouse lineup tonight. To our viewers, both on Zoom and Facebook Live, today's webinar will be a question and answer format. Carlo and I will ask the questions, and our speakers will have about 3 to 5 minutes to answer each question. Our speakers are free to add their inputs to another speaker's answer as a follow-up. Again, to our audience, feel free to type in the chat box any questions, comments that you may have relating to our topic today.
All right, so yun. Yes, so everyone, so let's get the ball rolling. I'd like to ask our Oly first, no? How is your journey in this home-in-one lifestyle with your family? Oly, you're muted. Yeah.
Oly, you're on mute.
Thanks, Carlo.
Yeah.
Like most things, I believe that everything has a good and a bad side to it. The good about today's study from home setup is that I get to be close to the kids. They spend all their time at home, obviously, and I appreciate that given how hectic it was for me before the pandemic. Right now, we get to eat a lot of meals together, and as a parent, I get to stay current with them. We discuss everything, and I get more involved. This is very fulfilling. This is a very fulfilling time, actually. In the same way, since they are just always there, just around the house, I also get to tap them whenever I need opinions or a bit of assistance. As a photographer, a lot of my post-production work are now being done at home. And sometimes I get to ask my teenagers, if a certain pose is better than the other, or a certain color grading is better than, the other. They get to know more about what I do, and they get to be involved. With my little kid, I have a young daughter. I get to play with her, whenever I want. If I get some breaks during work, she's just always there, and we get to play a lot as well. So those are the good things. But on the flip side, privacy is always a concern. It was a concern because there are 3 of them, and they would need their own spaces when they do their classes. Since most people stay in the house, it was something that we knew we should be considerate about. Also, since I said I have 2 teenagers navigating their different relationships online with friends, with teachers, it's tricky. It's tricky already if you're like in the real world, but having it, put online, the relationships get even trickier, right? So it's something that requires, I feel, good parenting. I believe that knowing what to know, and knowing when to share my thoughts and when exactly to leave it to them is important. Keeping them in high spirits and always excited is also essential. But somehow my kids have always loved being indoors. Manata sa akin. So it wasn't much of a concern. If protocols permit, we do try to go out. And lastly, my work requires me to go out very often. We do our shoots, of course, in person. Staying safe and healthy is very important. I have to be extremely strict with the conditions I work in, making sure protocols are properly followed, testings are always done, and I prioritize getting my entire team vaccinated.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that, Oly, for that sharing. So you're right about that. Now that's in anything. There's always 2 poles. So we need to embrace the negative and the positive poles of any situation, just like this. All right. Thank you for that, Oly. So how about you, Jaycob? How can you relate to our topic today?
Well, I think Oly said everything na, no? Pandemic, I was always out. So I'm a stockbroker. So it's sales, wine and dine with clients. I really didn't have a lot of time with my kids. But right now, I'm 100% working at home. the last time I've only been in an office once since March 2020. So if you can imagine that, I'm entirely at home all the time. So yeah, and I can relate because all of us, our kids, me, we're all have 2 kids studying online, so we all have our separate rooms. My wife is also has her own project-based work right now. So yeah, privacy is also an issue. I'll talk more about later regarding that. Thank you.
So yeah, Jacob, what are the challenges at this home-in-one lifestyle for you right now?
Well, again, no. So I'm a full-time stockbroker and trader. So during trading hours, total concentration and focus is really needed. So in my line of work, losing focus can mean huge error and big money is at stake. You know, dag ka lang ng zero will mean 1 million or 10 million pesos, right? So it can be a huge error. And that's not easy to do when you have yung katabi ko, uber super duper hyper 7-year-old, right?
Grabe super duper.
But he is talaga, I don't know.
Sa energy.
Sobra siya sa energy. And also my kids are quite far apart then. Same with Oly, my eldest is turning 17 and my youngest is only 7, is turning 8. So the interests are not the same anymore, and it can be a challenge to keep them from being bored. Especially now that, you know, they don't go to school and they cannot go pretty much outside. So we always have to think of what we can do so our kids do not get bored, especially given that we cannot go outside like how we used to. And boredom is real, diba?
Yeah.
So imagine you're a kid. You cannot go out freely and it's nearing 2 years that we're in this kind of situation. It's really boring, to be honest.
Yeah, imagine no dates and no, hangouts with friends. All right. So I agree with you, Jacob. So my daughters are also, 17 and 12. So different interests talaga. So yeah, we really need to to do our best to learn actually from now, how do we engage our kids. So all right. So konnichiwa, Kana. How about you? How do you relate to our topic of smart parenting, especially now in this time of work from home situation?
Well, we're all in this together, aren't we? Right?
Yes.
And well, unlike Oly and Jaycob, where their kids are, age group are far apart, my girls are 13 and 10, so they're, closer age and they can play together. They hang out together a lot, but very sensitive age. Who have been stuck at home for the past 18 months. So very much relatable topic. And sometimes, I feel like locking myself in a room or feel like throwing them out of the condo. But jokes aside, fortunately, with minimal adjustment, we've all managed to establish ways to cope. And that's mainly because my girls are quite independent. And I'm very, very thankful that. Why are they independent? Because I'm Japanese, right? And to be self-sufficient and independent has always been a priority, simply because it's really not common to have household help, yayas or drivers in Japan. And I had, house chores I shared with my 2 older siblings ever since I was 7 years old. Simple things like, bringing the newspaper, preparing coffee for my dad, cleaning up the pet dog's bath, walking the dog, help my mom prepare dinner or do the dishes. So that's very natural. And I also apply that for my parenting. And in addition to that, I was based in Paris, France, when I gave birth to my eldest. And the parenting style in France was something that we were very much inspired, and it's all about setting boundaries, proper scheduling, nurturing independence and balance. So that's what we applied in our parenting. And one thing I wanted to share is that, in Japan, there's a saying that Mitsugo no tamashi hyakumade. It means, did you understand that, Carla? It's the first 3 years of life of your child that determines the rest of 100 years. Yeah, because Japanese live until 100, right? No, but the foundation of the habit and way of thinking is really built in the first 3 years. It might be extreme, but I believe that in a way, seeing how my girls quite independent and self-sufficient for their age, and that helped a lot, especially during this pandemic, because they can simply take care of themselves.
Wow. So can you repeat that again in Japanese?
Mitsugo no
Japanese
tamashii
lesson.
sakumade.
I'll just Google search and translate. All right. So thank you so much, Kana. That's East meets West na parenting style. Now, thank you for that, Kana. So let's hear from Doc Melanie this time. So what's your experience so far in this home-in-one setup?
Well, as a school directress and teacher for more than 30 years, I've been working very closely with our preschool and grade school students and their caregivers. No? Of course, since they're so young, I need to collaborate with their yayas, even their older siblings, grandparents, and of course, most especially their parents. So I'm privy to the overwhelming changes and challenges they continue to experience and the constant adjustments they have had to make, especially now. So also as a developmental and clinical psychologist, I've had more than the usual number of queries and requests for consultations for issues relating to self, isolation, depression, stress, anxiety. I think we can all relate, no? Couple and family relations during this pandemic.
Yes, Doc Melanie, you're so right about that. It seems that in this current situation, we are moving. It adds another layer of challenges that needs to be dealt with at home in the household. So I have a follow-up question. What qualities or characteristics do parents need to develop for their families to thrive during this time? And what skills should children develop at this time?
Okay, let me start with the skills that children need at this time. No? So aside from cognitive skills, critical thinking, and tech skills that they need for school, the pandemic has paved the way for some socio-emotional skills to become more important than others. And these include primarily self-awareness and self-advocacy. You know, knowing your own strengths, knowing your own limitations, taking care of yourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally. Okay, and then also children need to understand and know how to manage their emotions, especially since there's a lot of negative emotions that they experience now. Accountability is also very important. Being self-directed, having a growth mindset, and taking charge of their own experience. In addition, I think effective communication also takes on utmost significance, particularly since we don't have the benefit now of using non-verbal cues and body language, right? That we can utilize in face-to-face interactions. But since most of our communication is done purely verbally, through text, or in remote setups, so we can't really tell, apart from what the person is telling us. Now we can really tell what the person is really trying to communicate. So empathy and inclusivity also take on greater meaning, especially because we are in the midst of a shared global experience. Yet each of us is going through it in our own way. So, but most importantly, given the constant major changes we are experiencing, we need to help our children develop adaptability, flexibility, right? And resilience, creativity at problem solving. Yeah? And my special favorite, I think we need to help our children develop their sense of humor. Okay. Why? Because the ability to make light of situations so that they don't feel overwhelmed and lose hope, I think it's very, very important these days. No? And for children to develop all these skills, we parents, of course, must possess and develop these skills as well. So our children will learn from us. So from seeing how we take care of ourselves, how we ourselves manage stress and solve problems, and how resilient we ourselves are.
Wow. All right. That's very insightful, Doc Melanie. No? So, yeah. Ang dami, no? Empathy, resilience. All right. So, and then sense of humor. And of course, we cannot teach that to our kids, but you know, we have to practice it as parents, sabi ni Doc Melanie. So, yeah, thank you so much, Doc Mel. So, a question for Oly. You mentioned earlier that everything has a good and bad side to it. So, is there anything now that you consider a huge challenge to parenting?
I think the biggest challenge for me right now, everything for me, the work from home or study from home setup is more beneficial, but the greatest challenge for me right now is having a business that requires me to go outside and meet a lot of people, different people every time, and sometimes there are events with multiple number of people there, and that poses a lot of risk, no matter how stringent you are. So coming home to the kids after a day's work regularly. So that's the biggest challenge for me right now.
Thank you, Ollie, for that. Yes, I think that's a very constant challenge, not only for you but a lot of families out there right now. So, as a follow-up question to that, what do you think your kids think about your work? What do they think about what the kind of work you do?
Um, I think because I do photography, right, and uh, kids really don't like their photos being taken, so it's not as exciting for them. So I try to tell them about it, but I guess my followers are more excited about what I do than them. So, but I try to make them appreciate it. Yeah. So I'm just curious, like if the parents of those attending here, you can share to us in the chat box if you are also able to share to your kids what you do, and do they relate to it? Do they like it, or do they like my kids who seem to not care so much about what I do? It's more of like me being at home. That's what's important to them.
Yeah, you can share if you do TikTok also. our parents.
Yes.
Kasi si Oli talaga influencer, di ba? All right, thank you. Thank you for that, Oli. All right. So now we have a question for Jaycob, no, as mentioned earlier. Actually, the question is also what are other challenges do you encounter as with this home in one lifestyle right now?
So for us, besides the one that I mentioned earlier, actually it's really it's more for my wife. It's because she's the one taking care. She's here beside me listening. She's the one taking care of guiding our kids in their education. So it's not easy, no, in studying online, especially in a traditional school where they still have lots of homework to do, and at the same time there's an additional language requirement kasi in kung saan nag-aral yung kids ko. So it's quite challenging since we're not Chinese. So we have to allot specific time pa for that. So may separate Chinese tutor pa. But maybe like we can ask also the audience. So maybe they can share something. What some of the activities that their kids like, or some of the challenges.
You can type in the chat box if you have major challenges, huge challenges right now. You can type in the chat box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially Jaycob touched on studying from home, even if your school is a traditional school. What more? And I should know, my daughter started studying this year, and it's a challenge of its own. So thank you for that, Jaycob. So I have a question for Kana. Kana, what would you say what were you able to find ways in relating to your children during this time of the pandemic?
Okay, new ways. Actually, not necessarily new ways, but there's something that we do more because of the situation, which is to be confident with our vulnerability. Okay, I can never pronounce this word properly, vulnerability, but I value this a lot, because when we think about independence, it's very much related to confidence, right? And if your child is confident, highly likely they can be more independent. And when we say confidence, it doesn't mean that we always have to be strong. Confidence is something that you feel because you understand both your strengths and weaknesses, and you are not scared to show both. So we practice this in our parenting by leading by example, just like what teacher Melanie mentioned. We as a parent have to be the example, right? So simple things like, saying sorry, apologize when we make mistakes, Because I know I shouldn't generalize, but the generation of my parents, you know, it's difficult to say sorry, right? And then everything, parents were always right. But I don't think that's relatable these days. Also saying thank you, never take anything for granted, especially times right now. We need to practice gratitude for small kindness we see around us. Admit weaknesses, again, we're not perfect and we all have our weaknesses, and own that weakness so that we can take more control of it, and not to fear asking for help, even from your kids. I ask a lot of help from my kids, and sharing personal experience when we failed. My girls enjoy hearing how we failed when we were their age, and you connect them more and give the sense that it's okay to fail. And the important thing is that we learn from it. And also confess to not knowing everything, because our kids are probably more mature than when we were their age, right? Because of all the things that they're exposed to right now. I think they're so much cooler than I was their age. And it's okay to tell them that we don't know everything, right? And we can learn from them, as I mentioned. Or if they don't know, we Google or we learn together. So, especially during this pandemic, everyone is stressed out, feeling vulnerable, and confident vulnerability. Recognize that we all make mistakes. We have our weaknesses. We can be stressed and are flawed, but also holds that we are all still worthy, just the same. So by sharing that openly and being comfortable to ask for help, we create that environment of interdependence within the family. So there.
Wow, I love that, no? Confident vulnerability. Sabi dun sa Facebook, Edlin said, in the Facebook chat, she loves vulnerability. All right, so a follow-up question for you, Kana. So what other things do you practice to help develop independence to your girls?
Well, a lot of things, but one key thing would be, anything that they can do by themselves, let them do it.
Yeah.
Right? Don't help, let them do it. Making their own bed, fix their breakfast, they start their online classes, manage their schedule for assignments and so forth. Ever since they were younger, they're still young. They did everything by themselves. Both my girls, they started eating by themselves at age of 2. We didn't carry them much. They walked a lot. My eldest, at age of a year and a half, she walked 1 kilometer walk in Versailles in France. So let them do things that they can do by themselves. And maybe they don't do it as perfectly as you wish them to do, but the important thing is that they do it on their own to the level of their satisfaction, right? And they understand why these things are important. And the only thing I'm very particular about are the common spaces, because in Japanese culture, we respect space we share with others. So things like, don't leave your personal items in the family room, leave the space clean when you leave. Think of the person who will use the space after you, especially the bathrooms, right? Put back whatever you used where it was. So we spend so much time at home right now, and we all have our responsibilities to keep the space clean so that our maids also don't get burnt out.
All right. So basic courtesy, no? Wow.
Yes,
amazing.
and yeah. I love it that Kana mentioned that even keeping our yayas, our household healthy from being burnt out. Sometimes we forget about them. So,
All right.
Carlo?
So we're just checking the questions that we are receiving so far in the chat box. We can answer the questions later on after the webinar, but we're going back to Doc Melanie. So could you share with us some insights about what subjects parents should dive into? No? Right now we know that even parents, we need to continuously learn, di ba?
Right.
Yeah.
So I have quite a few that I want to mention, no? And I invite my co-speakers that they might want to chime in also. So there are many resources available now to parents, no? Just like this webinar. Okay, so parents can find out more about, I think, very important are routines, how to create optimal routines for children and for themselves. Routines give us consistency and predictability. Two very important things, especially in these uncertain times, right? Okay. So also we could find out more about how to keep children productive, how to encourage children, to think of ways to occupy themselves. See, because it's not our responsibility or just the parents' responsibility to make sure that they are productive. Because, right, we want them to be accountable for themselves, for their own actions. Also, how to develop and maintain relationships, because relationships do not naturally occur now in an online setting, right? So we have to sometimes create opportunities for them to develop relationships. School stress, okay, I know parents are very, very stressed with online schooling now. And also children's mental health. How to know if our children are okay, and also how to know if they're not okay, right? I think that's very important.
Yes, thank you so much for all those inputs, Doc Melanie. So now we go to Ollie. Ollie, do you have any tips for parenting that you want to share with our audience?
I've always believed that it's about making the most out of every situation, and with this one, I always want to encourage parents, make the most out of the opportunity that your kids are now staying in the house, to be more current with them. When I say that, it means that before we are always with our friends, with our workmates most of the day, right? But this time, it's actually a time that you spend with your kids more. So before when you see jokes or you see memes or you see like forwarded emails, you share it with your workmates most of the time. But this time, I realized that I get to share that more with my kids. And it draws us really closer together. I don't think that there is another time that this would actually work. So I make the most out of that. And then for younger kids, it's time for actually me, I feel, to actually go to class with them. So when my daughter is like attending Zoom classes, so I'm there beside her, which I don't think would have been possible, if she's in a real school, right, or in a in-person school. So those things, I just appreciate that more, and I think it gives a closer. Definitely, it improves our bond as parents and my kids. I take this rather unusual work and study setup to really get to know my children. So I encourage everyone to do that. As a tip, it really is a fulfilling time.
All right. Thank you for that sharing. Actually, there's a question from Jay and Malalat in the chat box. Now, anyone can answer, but Jaycob can answer this question. How do we manage our children in the new normal without spending too much on devices? So what can be, what are the parenting tips that you can share to our audience, to engage our kids?
Yeah, for us, it's not so hard in terms of interest because we have 2 boys. And my wife always tells me that she has 3 boys, me being the eldest.
Kasama kay
So being the eldest of the 3 boys, so we have movie nights, we watch anime together, we play games together, we work out together. I train them in boxing and Muay Thai at home. So, and my youngest son even works out with me all the time. It's like 6 times a week, guys. So that's heavy workout stuff.
Wow.
And then we do art. Art stuff. And then the other day, my son was dancing as a warm-up for our workout. And then my son also took particular interest in what I'm doing right now, like trading stocks and NFTs. So he's now familiar with all the terms and is actually asking me to open an account for him already. And my son, my eldest, on the other hand, is really into gaming. So I told my wife, in order to have more bonding moments with my son, I will play games as well. So it's a win-win. Yeah, win-win.
Yeah,
It's the
it's a win.
perfect excuse, Jacob.
For online games. All right.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So, but you didn't force them naman to learn the trading. No, they just learn it and then just observe you, Jacob. No, in terms of the interest in investing and trading. No. Yep. Then wala yata si Jacob. Hello. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can go ahead. Kri.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. So yeah, Jacob, sorry. What really resonated with me is that basically you are very inclusive of and you're very open to sharing your experiences with your children right now. And it can really happen because they can see you. What you actually do at home is not like before that we just tell our kids, oh, mommy's gonna go to the office, daddy's gonna go to the office. But now they can actually see you in action. And I'm sure you and even other parents out there are filled with so much joy and pride when their kids are actually interested in what they were doing, because
and Jacob was sharing that
Yeah.
yeah
Since my son is like my twin, my youngest is always beside me. Right now, during our rehearsal, and before when I was president of champions, when I was presiding the meeting, he was always there. So one time I was rehearsing and he saw Dr. Ivan Meisner. He said, oh, that's my dad's boss. He works at BNI. So yeah, that's
just remember, Jacob. Start them young and future president of the chapter. So now,
for speaking of activities with kids, sorry, can I bump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, this pandemic really gave us an opportunity to do simple things like board games and card games. My girls wanted to learn how to play poker.
Wow.
so now, every Sunday evening, that's game night for us, and they choose what they want to do. Sometimes they come up with their own games, and it's simply fun to do that as a family.
Wow, thank you. So, Kana, how about you? What can you share about parenting? How do you balance being a mom and an entrepreneur during this time?
Yeah,
and the owner of BNI. And the owner of BNI.
I guess it's all about scheduling priorities, right? And my priorities are really first and foremost time to spend with my girls, which is dinner onwards until they go to bed. So I have an alarm set at 5 p.m. to slow down. And then weekends, spend time with them, workout time, and then other key regular meetings such as BNI. Yes, that's very important. Part of my business, one-to-ones and client meetings are plotted in my calendar, and we share those schedules over dinner for the following day, so we can manage our expectation. So if my girls need help for certain things like assignments, which we rarely do, they think that I can't do math. So they always go to daddy. And I always say, I know math too. I can teach. Yeah. But then, what's this? And then we tell, okay, when we are free so that we can help them out so they can also plan. But in general, we try to give space for them to make their own decision and let them experience both success and failure of their choices. So, even we know that, okay, maybe they're gonna fail with this project. We help them make the decision, and if they think that's the best decision for them, we just let them. And then after that, we help them process. So what was the objective? What were you trying to do? What went wrong? What can you do next? Right? So just guide them through those experiences and learn from it. And always remind them that we are there for them anytime they need us. And then what else to keep the balance? I do make sure I set time for myself. You have to be strong enough to balance everything, right? So even simple things like having a silent time, quiet time for 30 minutes to clear mind, or do something very mindless like watching K-drama. That's something that I started during this pandemic. Before pandemic, I said I'm never gonna start because I know I won't be able to stop. But that's something I got into, and it really helps actually to break my mind and all. And then also, of course, time to spend with my husband. So work out together, take a walk, have wine together to talk about anything, which keeps me centered. So that's how I keep my balance.
Wow. Thank you so much. I love that. Now, what you said, you allow them to fail, but at the same time, you have time to process the learnings that they can get from that specific learning experience. Now, we don't say failure, no, but yeah, amazing, Kana. Yeah, so let me check if you have questions in the chat box. Do we have? Yeah, none yet? Yeah, go ahead, Kree.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, I think we have interesting exchange of thoughts and questions and feedback in the chat box. So guys, just keep them coming, okay? So now can we hear from Doc Melanie? Doc, what do you think is one thing that parents forget most of the time?
With so much going on these days, there are a lot of things parents need to remember. No? I think first, parents need to remember to take care of themselves, to take care of their own needs first before they can take care of others' needs, right? Because if we are not okay, let's say if we're broken, if we feel hopeless, if we ourselves were immobilized because of our fears and anxieties, then what good are we to others? So really, we have to take care of ourselves first. So I totally agree with what Kana was saying about having me time. Okay, every day, let's still devote some time for ourselves, especially mindless me time. That is very, very good to give ourselves a break, right? Okay, and then also let's be kind to ourselves. Let's acknowledge the magnitude of the challenges we are facing and know that we are doing our best. No, and that our best is always enough. Everyone is facing a very, very tough challenge on a global scale, and we're just people, we're just individuals. If we fail, if we get tired, we get scared, it's okay. It's okay. Let's be kind to ourselves. Okay? And then let's also try and remember that we have more strengths and resources than we think. Okay, let's learn to identify and tap into these, like our own strengths, like what are the things we are good at. Okay, what are we qualified to do, and we don't have to be good at everything. We don't have to do everything ourselves. Like we can delegate. There are other people who are better at doing some things that we need to do. So let's have them do it. Okay, and then resources can also include opportunities. What opportunities do we have available to us? Okay, what social resources do we have? Like our friends, family members, our support systems. Such as your children's school. It's a very, very valuable resource. It's a very good support system that can share the burden, share the load with you parents, right? Your community, your church community, even professional healthcare providers. Those are other resources that are now available to everyone.
Wow. So much tips. All right. Thank you so much, Doc Melanie. So, as a follow-up question to that, to that. So, we have parents here and students. So how do parents can help their children with study from home setup? So, what advice can you give them in managing their workload?
Okay, I think it has been mentioned also by Kana, that we also need to set boundaries for work and school or for home. And of course, when we set boundaries, we have to let the people around us know what these boundaries are so that they will be respected. No? Because the boundaries are no use if you're the only one who knows about them, right? So we have to communicate these boundaries clearly to the people around us. Okay. Also, I think children and parents would probably it would be be useful for them to set a calendar and be conscious of due dates for projects, for homework, assignments. No? Because now it's so easy to lose track of weekdays and weekends and the months going by. We are in lockdown, but still the days and months seem to be going by so quickly. So we may suddenly realize that our deadlines are very near already, and then all the more we'll be stressed. Okay, so we need to break down major projects into small, achievable steps. This will make it easier for us to complete them. Okay, and also let's be aware of our personal work behavior. For example, I think some of us, given a list of projects, some of us would prefer to do the easy ones first and then leave the difficult ones for later, while others would prefer to deal with the toughest assignment first and then leave the easiest ones for later when they're a bit tired already. So we have to know our personal work behavior. Okay. And also, I want to remind our viewers that we don't have to be productive all the time. Now, sometimes the most productive thing we can do is take a break. Just do something fun, do nothing at all. Because having a break recharges us and renews our energy and motivation for us to be able to take off the next item on our to-do list, right? And also, you don't have to solve all problems and win all battles all the time. It's okay. If you feel overwhelmed with tasks, just choose, be selective, handle the most important ones, and then save the rest for later. We need to pace ourselves because, as we say in BNI, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Doc Melanie. While listening to Doc Melanie and Kana a while ago, it made me realize that yes, it's okay to admit that we are not perfect, we make mistakes, that we need the help even of our kids.
Yes.
Even if our kids see us as superheroes, we're not actually always Superwoman and Superman. We also have our low days.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, Carlo, we have some interesting questions in the Q&A chat box. So one of them is, how do you guys discipline when your kids have tantrums? Anybody can share their thoughts.
Tantrums. Not from BNI members, from your
Tantrum of kids, not BNI
kids,
members.
not from BNI members. Just to clarify the question.
Yes. How do you manage tantrums?
Yeah.
All right. May I?
Yeah, Doc Mel, yeah.
Okay. Sige. It's a rule of psychology that if you want to extinguish a behavior, you want to stop it from recurring, then the best thing you can do is ignore it and not reinforce it at all. Because if you react negatively, say if you shout or it elicits anger in you, then it's still rewarding for the child. And so the behavior will likely be repeated. But if you ignore it, you just have to make sure that the child is safe. He's not going to get hurt. Just ignore the tantrum and then wait for it to subside. And then that's after, when the child is calmer, then that's when you can talk about what it was that caused the tantrum, what the child wanted, and how he could have gotten what he wanted in a more appropriate way. Okay, so those are some things that you can do. I'm sure we have absolutely wonderful parents here in the room. Maybe we have other suggestions also.
Yeah,
I totally agree with Teacher Melanie. Don't feed into it, right? And then when my girls were toddlers, I had a timeout chair in the living room. So when they go in tantrum, they will sit there. So for them to just calm down, because when they're really emotional, yes, I was like, okay, time out chair, right? And then once they come down, that's when you talk. But we never force them to talk when they're not ready. I had a rule with them, even up to now, that when there's something that is bothering them, they can share with us in their own term. We don't impose. But let's not end the day without solving it. So that's the rule. So sometimes that talk will happen when they're taking shower or before they're going to bed, in the bedroom. So that's how we deal with it.
All right. Yeah. So, agree.
Sorry, yeah. I think this question is directed to Kana. Because there's a question that in the Q&A chat box. Isn't it hard to let your kids fail? Just watch them fail.
Especially high performers, no?
Yes. How do you just
personalities.
look at your child and say, "Oh"? How do you manage
True.
that?
Yeah. Well, I think we have to give some sort of what we call this a capacity, like where they can fall, so that if they fall, they don't fall too far, right? So even things like when my girls were younger, and our house was not baby proof that much. We just tell them how it's difficult. The corners of the table are dangerous. So for them to avoid those things, when they fall, we just tell them to stand up on their own, so that they will learn next time. Yeah.
Calculated
So,
then, ano?
Yes.
Calculated risk, yeah.
So yeah, even things like the first point. If we know that they're gonna fail, we just guide them to process it later on. But of course, we consult that. We accept what do you call this? We help them make that decision and make sure that's what they think it's best for them. Wow. So at least they will hold that consequence for themselves and will learn from it.
Yeah, I heard it also from one of the greatest investors na parang pain plus reflection equals progress. So it's important that there's a time for, processing that event, no? Yeah, very nice. That's a great culture that you're developing in your home. All right. So,
all right. Thank you very much, Kana, for that. So now can we hear from Jaycob again? So Jaycob, what advice can you give your parents? Can you give parents listening to us this afternoon?
For me, it's very So right now, just to make the most of the situation. So since we're stuck in our homes, and therefore we have a lot of time to spend with our children, because time flies so fast. So we should just cherish the moment while they are young. So talk, do things together, play with them, have fun with them. And of course, the discipline side, my wife is here. I'm more of the fun guy, but I also help in this way. Anyway, yeah, just kids grow up so fast. So, sulitin na natin while we are here.
Wow, interesting insight. Thank you, Jaycob, for that. Now, so time check, it's 5:54. I think we answered most of the questions in the chat box, so we can proceed. Yeah, Kri?
Yes. So we've been having a wonderful exchange having this afternoon. So thank you for our speakers and our audience for participating in our question and answer portion. So since we're approaching at the end of the hour, may we go for another round for each speaker, so that they can give us their final tips about parenting in this time. Let's start with Kana.
All right. Well, at the beginning, Carlo mentioned that there's really no perfect parenting style. We all have different style, right? And it's really a continuous trial and error. And important thing is for just to find what works best for you. right? Start with what you want and what you can do, because sometimes that's not aligned. So you need to figure that out first, and that's really the best way to have a stress-free parenting. And raising independent kids does require a lot of effort and patience at the beginning, but it can give you a lot of freedom and balance in your life once you get it right. So my advice is really, no matter how old your kids are, have that open communication. Talk to them, not down to them, to find ways how to help each other, because the effort shouldn't come just from the parents, but also from the kids. As teacher Melanie also mentioned, we all have different roles to play to have and make a happy family. So that's my 2 cents.
Oh, thank you so much, Kana. All right, so may we hear from Doc Melanie?
I agree with Kana 100%. There's no one-size-fits-all blueprint when it comes to expectations, strategies, and outcomes related to child rearing. It's really a very complex process, influenced by the interaction of many general and particular factors. So we parent our children the best way we know how. But it's never too late to learn how to become better parents, just like what we're having here, what we're having now. So no matter how old our children are, we're still capable of learning how to become better parents to them. And so let's all take comfort also in knowing that you are not alone, right? We're here. We're all here with you.
Thank you very much for those comforting words, Doc Melanie. So now, Oly, how about you? Any final words for our audience?
Yes, since Jaycob, Kana, and Doc Melanie has really stated a lot of great points, I want to just focus on health and safety. I think that given the situation now, this should be the top priority for parents. We must really work. If we must really work outside, we must develop stringent health and safety protocols to ensure the family's safety. I cannot, no matter what I do, I will always be exposed. And at the end of the day, I have to go home, to my family. By taking care of ourselves in our respective places of work, we also take care of, of them. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Oly. So that's health and safety for our family, especially right now with the new variant. So may we also ask Jaycob for his parting words for our audience this afternoon?
Actually, what I said earlier was my parting words. But in addition, I think having some division of roles in the household can help. So we have some, but it's not really set in stone, but probably it's based on our personality and our strengths also. Because me, since I was in college, I was known to have a BS extracurricular minor in economics degree. So in our house, I'm the one doing the workout, the games, and my wife is more on the education, on the discipline. But we help each other. But my wife always tell me I'm in charge of doing the fun part. I mean, playing games with your kids is not really a chore, right? But having fun basically.
All right, thank you, Jaycob. So thank you so much our speakers. We have a lot of takeaways this afternoon. So in the chat box, probably you can share your favorite takeaway for our participants this afternoon. You can type in the chat box. But a lot of takeaways, right? Confident, vulnerability, being okay with not okay.
Not
right?
being okay.
Yeah, not being okay. All right, so many takeaways. How about you, Kree? It's your
one of my key takeaways from Oly is that us here in BNI, we are business owners, and with the pandemic, it does not mean that we need to stop working, because if we stop working, how will we provide for our kids? It's really also having the balance of doing our businesses, going to work, going out, but also taking into consideration our health, because when we take care of ourselves, even in our workplace, we are also taking care of our families when they go home. especially for like me. I'm a parent who goes out, so if my daughter gets sick, so it must have been from me. So I cannot imagine how that will eat up myself. Yeah, how if that happens to us, knock on wood, how will that affect me emotionally and mentally? So really taking care of ourselves physically as we go out and go about our business and making our businesses grow.
All right. So thank you, Cree. And that rounds up our Restart the World Home in One webinar series episode for this afternoon, Smart Parenting. So thank you, Oly, Jaycob, Doc Melanie, and Kana for sharing your time and industry expertise with all of us.
This has been the third Restart the World Home in One webinar series hosted by BNI All-Stars and powered by BNI Taguig. Let us continue to restart the Philippines one business at a time.
So BNI is the largest and most successful business networking organization with members and chapters in over 70 countries. In the BNI Taguig region, where we belong, we passed about 2 billion pesos since the first chapter was launched in 2018. 40% of that business was generated during the height of the pandemic from the months of March to July 2020. This is testimony that the BNI business referral system can help business owners, professionals, and even non-profit organizations sustain, thrive, and succeed, especially during these challenging times. You can learn more about BNI by going to the website bnitaguig.ph or simply asking the person who invited you here today. Thank you once again to all our speakers and participants this afternoon.
We would also like to have your feedback as we believe in continuous improvement. This will only take 3 minutes. Kindly click the link in the chat box and send us your response. And also, we would like to invite you to our next webinar, Restart the World Home in One webinar series featuring interesting topics on the art of gift giving, happening on September 29 via Zoom, just in time for the Burmans and Christmas season. I am Cree Velasquez.
And I'm Carlo Martin. Thank you all.
Thank you all and good evening.
Did you know that 82% of business owners say that most of their new business comes through referrals? Well, it makes sense. Think about the power of a recommendation from a friend or a colleague when it comes to restaurants and movies. Why wouldn't the same be true for business? And if you are a business owner, you know that a client who comes to you from a trusted source is far more likely to do business with you, and they'll probably spend more money, because that's the power of a referral. I'm Jenny with BNI, the world's leading referral networking organization. And for more than 35 years, all over the world, we've been helping business owners like you connect with the people who are looking for their products and services. So if you've struggled in this economy with how to find new business, BNI can help by introducing you to a group of reliable and committed referral partners who can open doors for you in a way that direct mail postcards and cold calling just can't. So how does it work? Our members meet weekly, they showcase their businesses, and they pass referrals. It's as simple as that, and it's very effective. In fact, last year, our 270,000 member businesses generated over $16 billion in new business. $16 billion. So if you'd like to experience the way our members work together and support one another toward growth, the next step is easy. Click on the link and you can register to visit a chapter in a community near you online live. And then you can watch our proven system in action. We hope you'll see that BNI is your best chance for your business to grow in this challenging economy. And we hope to see you visiting a BNI chapter soon.